vice president.
Well, I began the show today with Mike Pompeo was out at Langley today talking about this, and he blasted Dianne Feinstein. I'm curious, Chuck Todd, if you think the motivation of Senator Feinstein has been sufficiently explored as a political issue and a journalistic issue here. The timing of this is awfully suspicious.
Well, I think I think there's complicated tension between different parts of the government here. John Brennan upset at Dianne Feinstein. John Brennan upset at the White House. Doesn't feel like the White House has done enough there. White House not happy with Dianne Feinstein. John Brennan not happy with Leon Panetta and how Leon Panetta basically allowed the access that he allowed. So this is a more complicated political story than I think. It doesn't just break in the normal red versus blue, or this is. I think it got personal, frankly, between Brennan and Feinstein in a way that I don't think we've ever seen a relationship between an Intelligence Committee chair and a CIA director get before.
Well, I agree with that, and I think it's because Brennan, who has, of course, been a loyal Obama soldier as counterterrorism chief at the White House and now at the agency, I think he thinks she was grandstanding and that there's no other explanation for this. It does put a lot of people in peril of prosecution before the International Criminal Court if they are, we're not a signatory to that treaty, but our allies are in some instances. You get an aggressive prosecutor, such as the Spanish guy who went after Pinochet a few years ago, and our friends are going to end up dragged before the ICC.
Well, I know for a fact these were some of the arguments that Brennan was making about having this public in the first place. I think that there were, frankly, some in the White House, I don't know if everybody, but some in the White House that were kind of hoping the clock would run out, meaning that the end of the year comes, Senate Republicans take over. Put it this way, this was one issue that the White House, I think, not everybody at the White House, but some at the White House and definitely everybody at the CIA would have been happy had with the Republicans in power when it comes to this report. And I think they were hoping the clock would run out and the report wouldn't see the light of day.
Now, Chuck, you've been around D.C. for a long time, so you know that as legislators get old and their stars begin to set, they get more and more anxious for headlines to be about them. Is there some aspect of this that Dianne Feinstein at 81 just wants one last turn at center stage?
I don't know that, because here's the thing. Up until this last year of contentiousness between Feinstein and Brennan, she was never, it was more of the Mark Udalls and the Ron Wydens that were the ones that were very, very skeptical of some of the things that the intelligence community does. She was always somebody that was seen as a bipartisan member, sort of a long-standing bipartisan member of the national security apparatus. There's sort of this unofficial part of Washington where a Stephen Hadley and a Tom Donilon, right, the national security advisors to Bush and Obama, regularly get together.
Yep.
That sort of thing. There is sort of this above politics apparatus, and she was always considered a member of that sort of unofficial tribe, if you want to call it that, if we tried to create a family tree of tribes here. But again, I go back to, I don't know about the motivation of sort of, the end of the career stuff, but I do think there certainly is, when you look at the legacy of Congress and the fact that Congress, there's a lot of Democrats who think they abdicated their responsibility, and frankly, some Republicans who feel like they didn't provide the oversight they should have provided in the moment. And
well, so much of this vitriol, you're getting into something here that a lot of people don't understand. So much of the vitriol, like there's a guy over at State who says the worst things about Cheney, not realizing he's Dick Armitage's buddy, and Dick Armitage is still embarrassed for getting Scooter Libby sent to jail. Indicted, because there's Dick Armitage who's responsible for that. So much of this is personal, but no one ever understands it outside of the Beltway.
It's funny you say that. I always say that some of this stuff, the nastiest views in politics never have to do with the D and the R. It's always personal. There's always a personal element to this. And I think, in particular, there definitely is a personal element to this between Brennan and Feinstein, to be perfectly honest.